You're listening to the Everyday Astrology Podcast. I'm Hilary Scott, your astrologer, and I'm here to bring you the current planetary conditions. So we are actually at this very moment in time, we're a day from the Saturn square Uranus energy, which is super potent. Like all of us must be feeling it on some level. Like in society, it's obvious with the things that are going on, and it's going to be with us all even till next year. But what happens with Uranus in Taurus, it's like busting up and bringing in the new and kind of destabilizing how things were. And Saturn is trying to stay the same or implement control, like it's the government, the rule, like government governing the mind. So there's this like real, I guess, a square is like cross purposes. So whenever there's a square in your chart or there's a square between you and another person's chart, it will often create like a lot of strife in the character. Like, you know, it's a constant hotspot, basically. You'll feel it all the time. It'll come up where, you know, there's just something, like if you have it with another person, you literally will have completely different perspectives on how to go forward. So it can be very like dividing, but the point of the square is to like work through something, to evolve into something. So that's happening. We're all totally under that. And it's pretty crazy if you just kind of take a peek on the world stage. The stuff that's going on is really, I'd say, an example of that, of this like quintessential struggle that we're all going through while we're trying to evolve here, or while the planet's evolving and we're evolving on it. So the big event coming up this week is that we have the summer solstice, which happens when the sun enters Cancer. It happens to be Father's Day as well that day. And it's and on another thing that very day, Jupiter goes retrograde. It's very potent this day. And it's like when the kind of harvest, you kind of can see the fruits of your labor. You can see which seeds are growing. You can see, you know, which plants are healthy and which ones aren't. And things become kind of, you know, bright and clear. And it's a good time to, you know, take stock of, and because there's retrograde planets happening as well, it's a really good time to kind of take stock of where you've been, you know, what you learned, you know, maybe connect to old relationships or like connect your understandings to the relationship situations you've been in your life. Like there's a lot of kind of retrospect that can go on when the planets are retrograde. So for the next, like, what are we in, June, until October, everything's going to be retrograding, and it really is kind of, you might feel like you're just treading water, like you're not able to really get going forward. But come October, we really will. We'll feel like a whole shift in everything that's happening. So just, you know, bide your time, maybe hold your breath and float a little bit. Like don't necessarily feel like in a panic to make a change, but do really dig into your psyche and figure out where you've come from and where you want to go. And that sort of really deep questioning. Look around your life and see, you know, what is worthy of your attention and who is worthy of your attention and just where you're investing your time. It's very critical because we want to make sure like where your attention, what is the quote? Where your attention goes, energy flows, which is super true. So take stock of what's going on in your mind. Mercury retrograde is actually retrograding in Gemini, which is a very dualistic, very busy, fast-moving sign with a lot of it's a lot of mental energy. And it can kind of be like a trickster energy, but also kind of helping you to see the variety of possibilities, which there's a variety of possibilities that you could take to choose which direction to go and what you want to create in your life. So we all are at very pivotal times, and we need to kind of, I guess, be in our own hearts and centered in our own systems so that we can figure out what is right and what is wrong and where to go and where not to go and who to be with and who not to be with and all that sort of important discernment kind of stuff. that we can kind of, forget we can do because we're just kind of all thrown in together. Like imagine a little kid getting thrown into a kindergarten class and there's just a mishmash of people in there. You don't know who those people are. It could be like who, I mean, I get that they're kindergartners, but they all come from different backgrounds and have different influences. And it's really kind of a crapshoot, I think, when you throw your kid into a class with a bunch of other people. Like who knows, even just by association, the kind of thoughts and feelings and ideas that you're picking up. It's like you don't have any sort of influence when your child spends most of their time under the influence of whoever is teaching them in school. So it's that kind of being discerning about where are you putting your attention? Who is influencing you? Because you don't want to just, let it be a free-for-all. So with the solstice is exact on June 20th, and it will be at 11:32 p.m., which is Eastern on this calendar. So wherever you are, that's the exact moment. And it really is a good time to like plant a garden, maybe do some rearranging with your house plants, like work with nature, work with Mother Earth, go for a walk in the woods, connect with, the living system that we're a part of. It's a really good day too. This is something I've been super into lately, and it's really fun. And I guess that's how you know you're getting old, when things like this are fun. But I was on the hunt for some silica supplements, because I've heard it's good for your joints and your nails and your hair and your teeth and all that stuff. So I was looking for silica supplements and I was like, holy moly, these are expensive. And while I was on that hunt, I discovered that horsetail, it's like is it an herb? It's a plant that grows abundantly where I am, usually in kind of like marshy kind of wet soil, is like the biggest form of silica on the planet. Like it's super concentrated. So I realized when I was out watering my yard that I had this whole little patch of horsetail, like just growing there for free. So I've been learning how to make it into tinctures and drinking it in tea all day long. And although you're supposed to be careful with that, you're only really supposed to do that when it's in season, and then give yourself a break because it's quite cleansing and it can be irritating if you're not careful. So, warning if you're going to do that. But it's really amazing that this, like right there on my little, on a little patch in my yard, was exactly what I needed. It was growing, it was free, and now I can use it. And that's like nature everywhere, right? There's plants everywhere that are good for us. There's nettle. You can make nettle tea. You can make dandelion tea. You know what you can do to make like a tincture? I didn't even know this. This is so simple. All you have to do is dry out some herbs of some kind and put them in apple cider vinegar. Wabam! You wait a couple weeks and then you have your herbal tincture. They call it, what do they call it? Acetamum or something? There's a name for it when it's vinegar and not alcohol. So then you get like a little hit of the potassium and stuff. Also, this is another little interesting thing I learned on my herbal hunt, is that you can take like plain old milk of magnesia, which is like pretty pure apparently, and mix that with vinegar, and you have like a super, super cheap, really potent magnesium supplement. What about that? So there's like all these Mother Nature things that we can learn. There's all these, like, nettle cleans your liver of toxins. Like, all of these things really help us. So the more attention you pay to the system, the living system that you're a part of, I think the more happy and healthy. And like, look at that. I now have supplemented myself with silica, which I was looking to do. I had some kind of intuition about needing it. And bam, nature made sure that it was right there for me. So I think that we can all connect into nature that way. And I do believe it really is nurturing and fun. It's super fun. I'm like, how all these exciting things I'm still learning is never going to end. So that is sort of the perfect thing to do around the summer solstice, playing with plants and creating healing tinctures and nutritives that can feed your soul and your body and connect you to Mother Earth. So that same day, the summer solstice, the sun moves from busy, busy Gemini into homebody Cancer. And it is going to be trining the sun. The sun will be trining the moon, and the moon will be trining Jupiter, which is a really Like, it's just a beautiful, trines are beautiful. And then also Venus, not far off, will be trining Neptune. That's like very lucky energy. Very, Jupiter is benevolent and giving and truth seeking and justice seeking. And it's, it's what brings us our good luck. And connecting to this moon on the solstice, I think makes it very lucky, like some sort of lucky idea, some sort of lucky situation, a lucky break. Like, there's just so many ways that you can be lucky, right? Like, there's so many. You can count the many millions of ways you could be lucky. With Venus and Neptune, it could very well be like a relationship somebody that you meet, or even like a relationship that you connect with the divine, like your own higher self becomes more clear to you, or maybe you are able to tap into the poetry and the music and the beauty. And there's so much beauty and amazing things that are going on all the time in our world, and yet we can be so distracted and so like made to live in fear. Like, what a waste of there's so much like ways in which you could like not waste your energy being fearful, because it's just such a waste of time, right? It really is. And there's all these, the more like the frequency of fear is very low, and it's just not good, right? But if you can raise your frequency to experience joy and appreciation and, kindness and all that stuff, brings in such lovely vibrations. And that's all we really need to do. I mean, it's not always that easy. Like, you got to go through what you got to go through. But these are the moments in time when you can see, hey, there's like fortune and luck and magic. There's magic, coincidences and synchronicities and things that little, I've always believed that synchronicities show up to show you that you're on track, to keep pointing the way, kind of like breadcrumbs, like, yeah, you're going the right way. Sometimes it's hard to put them together, like the synchronicity might be, not seemingly related, but even just the very coincidental nature of our magical reality can be so like soothing. Like, you're not alone. You're not alone. It's all going to be okay. We're not alone. So that's the kind of stuff that's going on during the solstice. Jupiter going retrograde that day is a big deal too, because it's like, it's kind of slamming on the brakes and turning around quickly. So, I mean, the energy of Jupiter is always so enthusiastic. So whatever it's going to do it enthusiastically. So you definitely want to, and it's in Pisces right now. So like, they're again tapping into the Neptunian world of magic and mystery and kind of the galactic awareness of maybe other dimensions, all that kind of very galactic, magical starseed kind of energy. It's super potent. There's magic that comes through this, and there's something that is lifting up the planet and elevating the planet, and it's definitely, I think, ultimately for the greater good. We just have to kind of hang in there, I think. And this is like the more difficult part, Pluto will be squaring this moon, and so will Mars. So it's like there needs to be some deep reconciliation of truth. And here in Canada, actually, like, it's such a dark topic, but I know I mentioned in my last podcast about how they found at one of the residential schools here in Canada, which is what they called these like institutions that they took children 4 and up, not just 6 and up, away from their parents. If they were Indigenous families, the RCMP, which is the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, which apparently, I didn't know this, but they were created to do this task in the first place, would go around and at gunpoint oftentimes take the children away from their parents, the Indigenous families here, and then put them into these institutions. And these, like, the atrocities that went on are just like, I just can't even, like, it's just so shocking. But they've discovered in one of the schools, not far from where I am, that they found 215 bodies, and they use a special radar equipment that can help identify where the bodies are buried. But since then, it's been a week, I guess, since this discovery has been brought up to light. There's been, I think we're up to 535 bodies now at different schools across Canada. And on record, there are 50,000 of these children missing. So I really hope that this is something the whole world hears about, and that all the other countries that partook in this same sort of ethnic cleansing, that they all get brought to light that it was happening, because it wasn't happening that long ago. So that's the sort of, with Pluto is, and it's in the last degrees of Capricorn. Like on one level, it could be a major power grab, but on another level, I think it's like digging up showing us where the bodies are buried, because it has to be known and acknowledged and shown, because we need to see. Because without the acknowledgement of the trauma and the pain and the atrocities that occurred, there can be no kind of healing from it. So that's crazy, that I think that, like, all those, I mean, this isn't the only place that stories like that are surfacing. So even there was on the new moon solar eclipse, there was the big world summit in the UK, and world leaders from everywhere came to go to the summit, even though, like where we are in Canada, we're not allowed to like travel. If we come back into the country after being away, we have to go into these quarantine hotels that cost about $666 a night, because if you break down $2,000, that's what it works out to be. And it has to come out of your own pocket. It's like this big pain in the ass. But our Justin Trudeau and his one of the, I think her name's Christia, she's like one of the finance ministers. They just went to this big meeting, and there's pictures of everybody. Queen Elizabeth is there. Everyone's there. Nobody's wearing masks. Nobody has any sort of social distancing going on. They're all like schmoozing at cocktail parties. And I'm like, how can this actually be like going on? And then they're going to come back to Canada, and I'm sure they're not going to have to stay in these hotels. And I'm sure that like there's not going to be any consequences for like pretending that they're not locking the whole country down still and making us wear masks and all we're not even supposed to leave our neighborhoods where I'm living. They're like, you have to only stay local. You can't like drive across, the county line kind of thing, or into another province. It's like totally locked down. It's nuts. So I think, but the sort of them, I don't know, like, do they think nobody notices that this is going on? I guess maybe the people that are, believing the whole storyline don't notice, because they're, it seems to still work for everybody. So with Pluto doing that, though, I do think like the spotlight is going to be shone on all the hypocrisy and the, like, obviously they're not overly concerned about this so-called virus, because everyone's acting like things are just fine. Especially, all the other parts of the world are opening up. So yeah, it's crazy times. It's super fast evolving times, I think. But at the same time, we want to be able to like look back and be clear about what is being, like what we want to create, what we're involved with. Because there is like a buoyancy to help us create a new reality. Lots of good ideas, inspiration, also connection with others. Like you might find yourself meeting people that resonate, and it's actually, this whole thing has really made me feel grateful for the friends I have in my life. And I've made new friends even through this whole thing that are thinking along the similar lines, which is nice. I mean, if you're going to have a friend, have one that has a similar mindset, because then it's just more harmonious, obviously. It took me like years to learn that. Years. But it's nice to feel connected and be connected with like-minded companions. It's just like supportive, right? So I felt grateful when this whole thing started to roll out, that all my friends, we were all aligned. We all saw the same thing. So that was grateful. I was grateful that didn't have to happen, in my friendships. Family stuff was more complicated, but at least my friendships are like, like-minded. I feel grateful. There's so many things to be grateful for. Spring and hummingbirds and bumblebees and, good food and sunshine and just, I mean, really, it's just endless. It's endless, the things that you can be grateful for. So that covers up until the summer solstice on June 20th. I'll come back and talk to you about the full moon that's coming up on the 24th, and also Mercury going direct too, which is happening on the 22nd. But for now, we'll leave it at that. I hope that you make the most of this solstice. Write it down. Make sure you know what you're doing, what you're planning, what you're focused on. Keep your vibration high, but at the same time, feel your feelings. If feelings need to come up, let them come up, and then clear your energy. Make sure you get rid of anything that's not yours, that's just attached to you for some reason. Clear it all out of the way and come back to your heart, where you'll know what the right choices are for everything that you do. So, happy solstice, many blessings, and thank you so much for listening.